Welcome to Lesson 54, Properties of Rational Numbers, Part 2. Lesson 54 of Numbers and Operations. Our objective, our vocabulary. So let's find three fractions between 2/3 and 3/4. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to make equivalent fractions out of these. So we know that we can take 2/3 and 3/4 and multiply them both by 2. So if we multiply by 2 over 2, and when you multiply fractions, tops multiply tops, 4 over 6 times 2 over 2, we get 6 over 8. These have different bottoms, so we can't really do much with them. Now, what we could do is just keep making equivalent fractions. So if we multiply 2/3 by 3 over 3, we get 6 over 9. If we multiply 3/4 by 3 over 3, we get 9 over 12. If we multiply 2/3 by 4 over 4, we get 8 over 12. All right, so now we finally have some fractions with the same bottoms, 8/12 and 9/12, but they're so close together. So what we're going to do is multiply these two fractions by 2 over 2 and come up with 16 over 24 and then 18 over 24. And now we have a number between. So 17 over 24 is one fraction that's in between 2/3 and 3/4. So here's an example of something where you would just keep multiplying and then look for numbers with differences. So I'm going to find two more fractions on the next page just to clean it up. All right, so we got to the same bottom by multiplying this fraction by 4 over 4, which gave us 8 over 12. And this one by 3 over 3, which gave us 9 over 12. And then we multiplied them again by 2 over 2. Which gave us 16 over 24. But if we multiply these, let's take 8/12 and multiply that by 2 by 3 over 3, which would give us 24 over 36, and then take 9 over 12 and multiply that by 3 over 3, and we're going to get 27 over 36. And so now we can see we have a lot more options when we just keep multiplying. So in essence, what we did was we took 2/3 and multiplied it by 12 over 12. And we took 3/4 and multiplied it by 12 over 12. And we came out with 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 12 is 48. Oh, we can't multiply by the same one. That's why it's not looking right. Because you get different bottoms, and we want to have the same bottoms. All right, sorry about that. All right, we multiply by 9 over 9. We get 24 over 36 here. We get 27 over 36 here. So let's find three fractions. We got 25 over 36, 26 over 36, and on the previous page, we found 17 over 24. So you can just keep multiplying fractions and keep multiplying fractions until you get something. Again, this is one of those lessons that teachers really don't have time to teach in a normal span of the year. And so I'm just doing a little extra here and you may or may not see this. So we want to find three decimals between negative 0.427 or 427 thousandths and 42 hundredths. So this one is going to be easier. So how do we compare decimals? Well, the first thing we have to do is make sure they're to the same place value. So when you compare decimals, just like fractions had to have the same bottom, decimals need to be to the same place value. Okay, so this one will be easy. So we inserted our 0. And what's in between these two numbers? Well, we got negative 0.421, negative 0.422, and negative 0.433. And you got 434, 435, and 436. So we just asked you to find 3. And so why is this a property of numbers? This doesn't really get into the identity and associative and those types of properties, but we're dealing with equivalent numbers and what's in between numbers. So this is more of a density of numbers problem. Okay, find a number halfway between negative 4 and 5 sevenths and negative 4 and 4 sevenths. So we want something halfway in between. All right, this one gets a little bit tricky. So there's 2 ways to solve this problem. So I'm going to solve it one way on this page and another way on the other page. So here we go. Turning negative 4 and 5 sevenths, negative 4 and 4 sevenths into an improper fraction. Multiply. We're going to multiply the bottom and add the top. So 4 times 7 is 28, plus 4 is 32. 28 plus 5 is 33. Now, what you're supposed to do, and this is the general formula, finding the halfway point, and we'll get to this in geometry. You add the fractions together. You get 55, 65 over 7, and then you divide by 2. So 65 over 7 divided by 2 over 1. And we know we change and flip. 65 over 7 times 1/2 equals 65 over 14. And now this fraction is halfway between. And so what we would do here is change this back into a proper fraction. So now 65 divided by 14. So you go 14, 28, 42, 66. So we need 3 14s. That's 42. Subtracting, we get 3, 23. That's too much. 23 is bigger than 14, so that doesn't work. I made a mistake, so maybe 4 did work. I subtract right. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 plus, yeah, that's 42. All right. Now 42 is 56. That's where I mean, I was thinking 56. 4. 4 times 4 is 16. It's 56. I counted wrong. And that's 9. Okay, so what's halfway between 5 sevenths and 4 sevenths is negative 4 and 9 14ths. Okay, so let's try this a different way. Now, another way of doing this, and this is a much simpler way. Negative 4 and negative 4 is the same. So all we really have to do is deal with the fractional part of the numbers. So if we take 5 sevenths plus 4 sevenths, we get 9 over 7, then divide that by 2. We should come up with the same thing. And then we just add our 4 to it. So Halfway between. You add the numbers and divide by 2. That's how you get the halfway point. Okay, find a product. One negative in a multiplication or division problem, an odd number of negatives will give you a negative. Okay, so now this one is a little tricky. There are 2 parts here. Whenever you see a negative outside of a parentheses, you know it's -1. And then you do what's inside the parentheses first. And this is what it should look like, -1 times 8. And we know that -1 times 8 is going to be -8. Okay, so that's the end of our examples. Try to practice problems, and I will see you at the end of the video for the recap. Okay, so here we go. We're going to find 3 fractions between -4/13 and -3/13. So we're going to set these up, -3/13 and a -4/13. So what you're going to do is find equivalent fractions until you get a big enough gap that where you get numbers in between them. And I know I was probably a little confusing in the... So here, there's one number in between 6 and 8. But what I would do is I would just keep multiplying by 2/2 until you get a series of numbers. And what I did in the example was I broke it down into separate parts. We know that 7/26 is in between 6 and 8. But here, look, between 12 and 16, we have 4 numbers. You got -13/52. You got -14/52. You got -15/52. And you get 3 numbers. So this may be a better way of approaching this problem. So you may or may not see this on a test, a standardized test. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So this is one of those weird things. So find three decimals between 0.8 and 0.85. Okay. You can't compare decimals unless they had the same place value. So look, we got 80. And we know three numbers. We got 81, 82, 83, and there are actually four numbers. So 84, we found four numbers. Find a number halfway between 5, 6, and 7 eighths. All right. Can we add these fractions as they are? No, we cannot. So we need to find the same bottom. So let's run through our eighths. 8 times 2 is 16. 6 doesn't go into 16, so that's not a common factor. 8 times 3 is 24. 6 does go into 24, so now we find the common factor. So 5 over 6 times 4 over 4, and then 7 over 8 times 3 over 3. We get 24 on the bottom. And then the top is 20. And then 21. Now we got to add 41 over 24. We got to divide that by 2. 2 over 1. We got to flip it. Times 1/2 equals 41 over 48. There's nothing to reduce. So there you go. Find a product. This is an identity property. So anytime you multiply by a negative, you get negative 1. Anytime you multiply by 1, you get the same number. Find the product. Here you got two negatives in a row. You always do what's in the parentheses first. 3.5 plus 7.9. Add those first. And whenever you do an operation, you get rid of the innermost parentheses. So 9 and 5 is 4. 7 and 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11.4. Bring your negative from the outside. There you go. So this was a little off the beaten path, this lesson right here. But again, I'm throwing in everything I could find dealing with math, even though teachers may not cover it in the normal course of the school year because sometimes it takes longer to go over certain things. I just want you to have that background to see how numbers work, how fractions work, how decimals work, just for your personal knowledge. So keep watching the channel. Many more videos to come. Subscribe and hit the notification if you like what you see. Thank you for watching.